5 often is wrong about military matters. When isn't he? Coming from Washington, in his 4th of July remarks, 45 will be celebrating the armed forces and showcasing what he's done for the armed forces, which he technically hasn't really done anything for them. But in recent days, he has falsified his record on military matters on several fronts. He's claimed, for example, that he came up with the genius idea of giving veterans private health care so they don't have to wait for Veterans Affairs appointments, only to find out that others had thought of it but failed to get it done. 45, 45. I know lies about a lot of things, and that's nothing new. But former President Barack Obama had signed that law, getting it done in 2014. 45 also made the flatly false statement that he won troops their first raise in a decade, suggested he's made progress reducing veteran suicides that is not backed up by the numbers, and contradicted the record in claiming that North Korea is cooperating on the return of the remains of U.S. troops. A look at his statements on military matters and personnel, some of which may be heard from the stage Thursday or in tweets. Military pay. 45 addressing military numbers. You got a very nice pay raise for the last couple of years. Congratulations, all you care about that. They care about that. I didn't think you noticed. Yeah, you were entitled. You know it was close to 10 years before you had an increase. 10 years, and we said it's time. And you got a couple of good ones, big ones, nice ones. Remarks at Osan Air Base, South Korea. The facts: he's been spreading this falsehood for more than a year, soaking up cheers from his inbreeding redneck crowd for something he didn't do. In May of 2018, for example, he declared to graduates of the U.S. Naval Academy, "We got you a big pay raise, first time in 10 years." The U.S. military members have received a pay raise every year for decades. 45 also boasts about the size of the military pay raises under his administration, but there's nothing extraordinary about them. Several raises in the last decade have been larger than service members are getting under 45. There was a 2.6 increase this year, a 2.4 increase last year, and a 2.1 increase in 2017. Raises in 2008, 2009, and 2010, for example, were all 3.4% under the last year of Bush and the 2 years under Obama. Pay increases shrank after that because of congressionally mandated budget caps. 45 in Congress did break a trend that began in 2011 of pay raises that hovered between 1 and 2%. On the suicides, on average, 20 veterans and members take their own lives every day. We're working very, very hard on that. In fact, the first time I heard the number was 23, and now it's down somewhat, but it's such an unacceptable number. This is a claim that he made on June 25th with the military veterans. The fact is, Trump incorrectly suggested that he helped reduce veteran suicide, noting that his administration was working very hard on the problem and the fact that the figure had to come down. But no decline has been registered. During his administration, there was a drop during the Obama administration, but that might be due to the way veteran suicides are counted. The Veterans Affairs. Hold on a second. The Veterans Affairs Department estimated in 2013 that 22 veterans were taking their lives each day on an average, not 23 as 45 put it. The estimate was based on data submitted from fewer than half of the states. In 2016, Virginia released an estimate of Veterans Affairs released a statement of 20 suicides per day based on 2014 from a data of the states as well as the Pentagon. The estimated average has not budged since. 45 has pledged additional money for suicide prevention and created in March a cabinet-level task force that will seek to develop a national roadmap for suicide prevention, part of a campaign pledge to improve health care for veterans. Still, a report by the Government Accountability Office in December found the VA had left millions of dollars unspent that were available for suicide prevention efforts. The report said VA had spent just about $57,000 out of $6.2 million for paid media, such as social media postings due in part to leadership turmoil at the agency. Now this is 45 on North Korea's help in returning the remains of U.S. troops from the Korean War. The remains are coming back as they get them, as they find them. The remains of our great heroes from the war, and we really appreciate that. This remarks Sunday to business leaders in Korea. 45 says we're very happy about the remains having come. He says He says we're very happy about the remains having come back and they're bringing back. In fact, we were notified that they have additional remains of our great heroes from many years ago. The facts, his account is at odds with the developments. No remains of U.S. service members have been returned since last summer, and the U.S. suspended efforts in May to get negotiations and the remains back on track in time to have more repatriated this year. It hopes more remains may be brought back home next year. The Pentagon's defense accounting agencies, which is the outfit responsible for recovering the U.S. war remains and returning them to families, has not received any information from North Korea officials regarding the turnover or recovery of remains. Spokesman Charles Pritchard had said Wednesday. Pritchard said his agency is still working to communicate with the North Korean Army as it is our intent to find common ground on resuming recovery missions in 2020. Fucking not even fully awake. Last summer, in line with the first summit between 45 and North Korea's Kim Jong-un that June, the North turned over 55 boxes of what is said to be the remains of an undetermined number of U.S. service members killed in North Korea during the 1950 to 53 war. So far, 6 Americans have been identified from those 55 boxes. U.S. officials have said the North has suggested in recent years that it holds perhaps 200 sets of American war remains. Thousands more are recovered from battlefields and former POW camps. The Pentagon estimates that 5,300 Americans were lost due to this war. On the healthcare, 45 and approving private sector healthcare for veterans. I actually came up with the idea, he said. Why don't we just have the veterans go out and see a private doctor and we'll pay the cost of the doctor, and that will solve the problem, because some veterans were waiting for 2 to 3 weeks. They couldn't get any service at all. I said, we'll just send them out, and I thought it was a genius idea, a brilliant idea. Then I came back and met with the board and a lot of people that handled the VA. They said, actually, sir, we've been trying to get that passed for 40 years, and we haven't been able to get it. I'm good at getting things done. Technically, he's not. It's really cut down big on the waits. Call on June 25th for military veterans. 45 says, we passed the VA choice and VA accountability to give our veterans the care they deserve, and they've been trying to pass this thing for 45 years. Pennsylvania Klan rally on May 20th. The facts: 45 did not invent the idea of getting veterans the option to see a private doctor outside the Department of Veterans Affairs and medical system at government expense. Nor is he the first squatter in 40 years to pass this program. Congress approved the private sector Veterans Choice Healthcare Program in 2014. Obama signed it into effect. Under the expansion, but 45 expanded it. Under the expansion, which took effect last month, veterans still may have to wait weeks to see a doctor, but the program allows veterans to see a private doctor if their VA wait is 20 days, 28 for specialty care, or their drive is only 30 minutes. Indeed, the VA says it does not expect a major increase in veterans seeking care outside the VA under 45's expanded program, partly because waiting times in the private sector are typically longer than at VA. The care in the private sector, 9 times out of 10, is probably not as good as care in VA. The VA Secretary Robert Wilkie told Congress back in March.